Welcome to Coffee and Books channel. In this video we will present the summary of The Watchers by A.M. Shine. Our protagonist is Mina, an artist who is down on her luck. The relationship she has with her family is distant, especially after her mother's death. All she had left is her sister Jennifer, who always criticizes her for her life choices. The friends in her life would better be described as acquaintances. The sketches she makes of passers-by as she sits for hours on end observing them are never quite to her satisfaction. One day she was at the bar across the street from her house, as usual, and a man named Peter that she knows from the bar gives her a proposition, to deliver a parrot to a man that's interested in buying it and make a good amount of money for her service. She can't pass it up as she needs the extra money. Peter hands her the parrot and a map with the buyer's location marked on it. The house is located in the depths of Connemara, in the vast Irish forest. Off she takes from Galway City on a dark autumn's evening. Driving along an increasingly difficult road, only vast forest along the way with no houses nor people, she begins to become uneasy, and her fear grows all the stronger when her car suddenly and without warning gives up. The engine dies, leaving her adrift in the wilds of the untamed countryside. When her car stops she doesn't know what to do. As she was thinking about what to do next, a high scream came out of nowhere. It was not a human scream, it was that of horror creatures and monsters. She went to the back of her car alongside the parrot's cage and covered herself in hope that no one will notice her, at least not until the morning. Morning came and she took the parrot's cage and went outside her car searching for help. There is nothing out there but a vast forest. She walked and walked all day but without encountering anyone. As dawn was approaching she saw a distant cabin in the woods. As she was approaching the cabin, a woman was standing at the door screaming and shouting. Mina couldn't hear it at first, but then she heard what the woman was saying. She was shouting, "Run! Run fast now!" With the panic that she felt after hearing those words, Mina ran without even knowing why. She entered the cabin just as it was getting dark outside. As the door slams behind her, the woman starts locking the door with its many locks and keys. Just as she finishes, the building is besieged by screams, the same screams that Mina heard the other night when her car broke down at the tree line of the forest. The woman that was at the cabin's door was named Madeline. She was an old woman with a tall figure and long arms. She wasn't alone at that cabin. She was with two other people, a young woman named Sierra and a teenager named Daniel. Mina finds herself in a room with a wall of glass, and an electric light that activates at nightfall, when the Watchers come above ground. These creatures emerge to observe their captive humans and terrible things happen to anyone who doesn't reach the bunker in time. This is when things get really sinister, and an otherworldly horror makes itself known. Mina's three new companions explain that to survive the night they must stay in the light, meaning to stay just under the light bulb overhead inside the glass room which is visible from outside, where the terrifying creatures that dwell in the forest may observe them, but won't break through the windows. They explain to Mina that this forest is inhabited by shape-shifting monsters who only come out at night. They are called the Watchers. They are sensitive to daylight and can only come out at night, and surround the cabin to watch the terrified group and mimic their appearance, as they take the form and face of each inhabitant of the cabin. Afraid and trapped among strangers, Mina is desperate for answers. Who are the Watchers and why are these creatures keeping them imprisoned, keen to watch their every move? Although the Watchers only appear between dusk and dawn, it's impossible to leave the safe house they call the coop. The forest is too dense and thick to exit before night falls, and if the captives are caught by the unknowable beasts after nightfall, there is no way to survive. They stay in that cabin during weeks and months, thinking about a way to escape the cabin. During this time we begin to know a little more about the background of the group. Madeline was the oldest and the first inhabitant of the cabin. She doesn't speak much, and when she does, it's only to give instructions and to guide the others, as she treats Daniel and Sierra as if they were irresponsible children and she can't trust them doing their labors without her instructions. Sierra initially found that cabin when she was with her husband John. It all began as a nice trip and they ended up stranded in that damned forest, as every car breaks at the tree line of that forest, and the only way to move on is on foot. One day John got out during daylight to search for a way out of that forest and come back with help to save his wife and the others, but he got lost and stayed out for too long, and the Watchers got him before he could make it back to the cabin. So now Sierra is left all alone with strangers. Daniel escaped his abusive father who always shouted at him and belittled him. One day he took his bike and started a journey to the unknown. What mattered to him is to get as far away as possible from his father's house. His bike broke down at the tree line of the forest, and that's how he ended up in that cabin. The routine of the group at the cabin was that during the day Daniel will go out to put bird traps so they can eat some bird meat and not starve, and Sierra or Mina would go to fetch some fresh spring water for them to drink. Madeline was always cold and strict with them, especially with Daniel, One day as Daniel and Madeline were outside during the day doing their labors, Madeline accidentally dropped the key to the cabin's doors. She wasn't aware of it. Daniel saw a chance and took it. He grabbed the keys and started running. Madeline noticed what was happening and started running after him and shouting. Daniel's motive was that he had enough of Madeline's cold behavior and cruelty towards him and Sierra. Just as he entered, he locked the door behind him, but unfortunately Mina also was outside when that happened. So now Daniel and Sierra were inside the cabin's safety, and Madeline and Mina were outside. The clock was ticking and nightfall was close. They begged Daniel to open the door but he resisted. Night came, and so did the watchers. Madeline and Mina hid outside the cabin just as the screams of the watchers broke the night's silence. One of the monsters was coming close to them, sniffing around the cabin and snarling. The watchers had noticed Mina's and Madeline's absence through the cabine's glass, and they were agitated by it. They returned to the forest, searching every corner, screaming with rage. Madeline and Mina embraced each other for the horrible inevitable fate awaiting them. Suddenly the door's locks clicked as Sierra opened it for them to get inside. Mina and Madeline got inside and locked the door behind them. Mina thanked Sierra, and Daniel sat all alone in the cabin's corner, afraid of Madeline's reaction. Sierra was always waiting for her husband John to come back to the cabin. Although he was dead, she wasn't aware of that, as she always convinced herself that he only was lost in the woodland and the watchers didn't get him. The next day the group was sure that the watchers are going to attack the cabin because of last night's events. That was all Daniel's fault. Because of him the watchers will no longer sit outside and observe them, they will attack the cabin. That day an idea occurred to Mina, to move the table which was in the center of the room to jammed in tight beside the door, to prepare for the watchers' attack. Mina discovered that the floor at the center of the cabin where the table was is hollow. There was a hatch there, so Mina got down first and found a narrow passage leading to a room with computers and a full storage of food and water. The group got down there. They found a footage on one of the computers. They played it. It was a self-made video of a professor named David Kilmartin. He was a lecturer at Galway's National University. He explained in the video that he had done a lot of research and studies about folklore and fairy monsters, and came to this forest to see for himself if the watchers are real and to study them if they are. He brought up with him many men to bring the container and the cabin's equipment to the forest. At nightfall he slept in the container which was located under the cabin, and the men that were with him slept in camps in the forest. He heard their screams as they were all slaughtered by the watchers during the night. He was left all alone in the cabin. During the night he will go up to the cabin and study the watchers as they also studied him and mimicked him and changed their face to copy his. He showed them a photograph of his wife. To his horrors he saw a horde of the watchers with his wife's face staring at him. He admitted that he regretted what he has done, and he starts talking about a possible way to escape the forest. He left a compass and said that whoever saw the video to use that compass and head directly south. There, a boat will be found next to the river, and to use that boat to escape from the watchers before nightfall. He had one last wish, that if anyone make it out of the woodland, he should go to the university where he was working and to destroy all his work and studies related to the watchers. The group took the compass and the very next morning at first light they began their journey. The journey was long and hard, but they finally made it to the river. When they were about to go on the boat, they noticed Daniel was missing. As Mina turned back, she saw that he was going back to the forest. A tall figure was waiting for him. It had John's face on it, Sierra's dead husband. A watcher had taken its form to trick Daniel to come back to the forest as he thought it was the real John, Sierra's lost husband. In an instant Daniel was surrounded by the watchers, tall thin monsters looking down on him. Mina looked away with tears in her eyes. Their beloved innocent Daniel was gone. They made it far from the forest. They exited the boat as they saw the road ahead of them, the first sign of civilization. They waited beside the road for a passing car to take them far away from the doomed forest. Soon enough a bus arrived and took them to Mina's house. There, Madeline had left them suddenly without saying anything, not even a goodbye. Sierra went to her house but not before giving her address to Mina so she can visit her. Mina went to the university as planned to destroy Professor Kilmartin's work. As she was waiting for the clerk to fetch her Kilmartin's studies, she talked briefly to a secretary who was with her in the library. She asked her about Kilmartin and his wife. The secretary grabs a photograph of Kilmartin's wife and showed it to Mina. To her horror Mina was shocked and speechless. It was Madeline's face in the photograph, only with a smaller body and shorter. The secretary told Mina that Kilmartin's wife died 5 years ago. Mina took Kilmartin's studies from the clerk and went directly to her house where she found her door broken. But nothing was missing from her house besides Sierra's address that was written on a paper on Mina's table. Mina panicked and went directly to Sierra's house. It was located far from the city in an isolated location. As Mina arrived the taxi driver took off. Mina called to Sierra to open the door. As soon as she entered she asked Sierra if she was safe and if she saw Madeline. Mina was breathless and Sierra panicked seeing her like that. She told her about Madeline and that she was in fact a watcher who was disguised as Kilmartin's wife. Suddenly the electricity shut down in Sierra's house. They both ran upstairs and hid under the bed, speculating that Madeline will soon arrive and kill them to keep them from telling the truth to anyone. Madeline arrived and searched the house. She went upstairs. Mina thought about talking to her and avoiding the massacre. Suddenly, Sierra pushed the door open to attack Madeline. Madeline grabbed her by the throat and was way taller than the usual as she now was in her monstrous watcher form. Mina begged Madeline to let Sierra go and told her that she destroyed all of Kilmartin's studies and that her secret is safe with them. Madeline had mercy for them. She dropped Sierra and left the house. Months had passed and Mina as usual sat at the bar across her house. A guy went to sit beside her while staring at her. Feeling uncomfortable, she left the bar. When she got out she saw a group of people staring at her. The man from the bar followed her and grabbed her hand, telling her, "Mina, I thought I was the only one. I was wrong, there are more." That man turned out to be Madeline, who this time had shifted and had taken the form and face of a man. Mina froze in her place, dazzled by what was happening. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more.